Well, guys, it's Jedi Joey, and today we're here to rank all four Bad Boys movies from the worst to the best. Now, here's the thing. I don't think there is a worse or horrible, like I know the Rotten Tomatoes scores, they change so and so with these movies, but I don't think there is a true Bad Boys. Funny, right? A true Bad Boy, worst, horrible, like the worst Bad Boys movie in the franchise here. But we're going to rank this from fun to most fun, okay? So, they're all very fun, entertaining movies. Now, the first two movies are directed by Michael Bay, where the last two movies are directed by the people that did the canceled Batgirl movie and will maybe do this new Spider-Man movie from what we're being told. So, let's jump into it. So, coming in at number 4, we got Bad Boys, the very first one in the 1980s. Okay, so this is a Michael Bay early 1980s action movie, way before you see Michael Bay do Transformers. This man's been wrecking cars and creating explosions since the 1980s and into the 1990s as well. And so this first one as a fun 90s action movie, it's got explosions, it's got chase sequences, it's got gun scenes, it's got cars being trampled over cars, and it's pretty good. The plot is pretty generic for the first movie. It's got some decent action, but the effects are a little dated, and you just don't feel that impact. You don't feel like these characters, this is their beginning. You know, you see Mike's kind of Will Smith, at the young Will Smith, you know, he's still a playboy. He's trying to do the whole switch of Martin Lawrence having to, switch lives with him. It works, but in spurts, it's just kind of weird. It doesn't really, fully connect. He's got to protect the girl, and they got to do this whole thing, and it doesn't really fit together the way that it should. Michael Bay did a good job making these movies, and Michael Bay does do good things other than Transformers. And this was this was Michael Bay, Will Smith, all their beginnings. And they do a good job of capturing that. But there's not quite that as bombastic of the action. There's not quite that amazing stuff that comes later in the franchise. So I'm going to give this one at least a C+ for me. It's not we'll do letter grades. It's not amazing, but it's not horrible either. The effects are outdated. That's what holds it back. I didn't find the villain that compelling or interesting. So it's a fun 90s, 80s action movie. But overall, it's the worst in the franchise. Coming in at number 3, we got Bad Boys 2. Now, this movie I have a lot of love with. This movie is Michael Bay's creme de la creme, guys. It's bombastic action, insane car crashes, more explosions you could shake it with. The comedy is up to 11. There's one joke in this movie, guys, one scene that I might even put in this video, maybe a couple clips to go from the Bad Boys movies. And one of those scenes I love about this movie is there is a scene where he literally, where in Bad Boys, there's a scene where he goes and one of the youngest boyfriends of Martin's daughter shows up at the door, and they're talking to him and basically tell him he's not tough and he can't fight, and just making fun of him. It's a great scene. It's so good. The action is great in this movie. It's really one of Michael Bay's best. You have great action. There's some great comedic moments, but compared to what comes later, it just kind of falls short. It has bombastic action. It has some fun. Has some fun ones. It has some good characters. I like the plot line of Will Smith falling for Martin's sister. I think that works pretty well. I think it works that he's kind of coming together in this moment, and it really works out here. But it's still more about the comedy and the action. With these last two movies, they really kind of dive into the emotional growth, and it really just gets interesting. So I'm going to give this one about a B. I think a B is a fair score for it, and I think it's very solid. All right. Now, coming in at number 3. Oh, sorry, we just did number 3. Coming in at number 2, we got the newest entry in the Bad Boys franchise, Bad Boys Ride or Die. Okay, now I'm going to be as non-spoiler with this as I can be. So I'll only try to stick with things from the trailers. So this movie, the visuals are great. The camera work and the cinematography is great. It has great action. Some of the jokes don't land as well as they should, but it's a fun action movie. The villain plot is pretty weak. It's not as good as it can be. There's a little fun celebrity cameo in there I think you guys will enjoy. There's a scene with a gator, so I got to give it some pretty big points for that. There's a really cool scene that you see from the trailer where Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are trading off handguns. And you got the camera moves from Will Smith's hand like first-person Call of Duty style and then hands over to Martin Lawrence's, and it's super cool. Incredible camera work, incredible gun scenes. I want to see them direct. I want to see these guys that did not get to direct Batgirl direct a comic book film with some humor and some action mixed in there. Like, I'd love to see them direct Spider-Man. I think they do a great job here, and I really like it. I think it's great. And I like how they introduced Armando, Mike's son. I think it's a great element. I'd love to see in Bad Boys 5, they have a much more bigger police task force, and they come together. I would love to see the son come together. Maybe Reggie joins the team. There was a standout fight scene of actually Martin's ends up to be sort of like son-in-law, ends up Reggie, the U.S. Marine, ends up kicking ass, and he gets to take names, and it's great. It's got some great action here. They do a great job with the rated R element. I think it's great. So I'm going to give this one an A-. Now, coming in at number 1. Okay. Now, this was a really tough choice because I just saw Bad Boys Ride or Die yesterday, but Bad Boys for Life is the best Bad Boys film, and here's why, okay? This movie introduced the element that Will Smith's character, Mike Larry, had a son, Armando. And Armando's like the Winter Soldier. This man is cold, okay? Now, this dude is a badass. Now, in Ride or Die, he gets some badass moments. But in this movie, he was a cold-blooded killer. And he ends up killing the captain. He ends up like... In this movie, they really go in deep. In the last movie, they kind of dealt with... In the newest movie, Ride or Die, they focus on Martin Lawrence's character. He's the MVP. They focus on him actually having post-traumatic stress and getting to almost dying and kind of seeing his life flash before his eyes, which leads to some great comedic moments and a little bit of heart as well. But in this movie, we get to see more of Mike Larry, and we get to see more human. He's not just a womanizer. There's human to him. In the last movie, we learned, in the newest movie, we learned that he finally gets married, finds the love of his life. In Bad Boys 3, we find out in Bad Boys for Life that he literally ends up hooking up with a witch, and then that witch births him a son. So we get more human moments with him because Will Smith's character, Mike Larry, learns that he has a son. And his son, Armando, is great. A cold-blooded assassin, but by the end of the movie, they set him up, and he's in a good place. This movie's got everything I love about the Bad Boys movies. It's got the bombastic action. It's got the great choreography. It's got the laughs. It's got the funs. It's got the fast cars. It's got the pretty girls. It's got everything you love about the Bad Boys franchise rolled into one. So it gets an A+ for me. I love Bad Boys for Life. Let me know your guys' thoughts. What's your ranking of the Bad Boys films? Let me know your thoughts. Mine isn't the right list. It's just my list, and I'd love to know yours. Let me know. And remember, bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Have a great day.
Woo!